So it is all about Sifat Kaur Samra, the Indian shooter. She has not only won a gold medal, but she set a new world record. And she won the individual gold in the women's individual 50-meter rifle event at the Asian Games. Best hit was of 469.6, which is a new world record. Sandeep, your thoughts?
Well, a tremendous thing to get up early morning for India. You know, gold medals, world records, all happening here. I think, as we had earlier said, that your stack of medals are going to come from shooting largely, are going to come from track and field. But I think shooting is probably showing the way now. What happens is because shooting is right at the start, I think it affects their non-performance, and performance usually affects the entire Indian contingent. And I think this is a good thing because with more and more athletes winning, going back to the village, and then those medals are on display. They are watching them do interviews and all of that. I think this probably holds good for the ones who are coming in now, in the sense that you've got largely a lot of team championships to follow. You still have football going up there. You still have boxing up there. You still have track and field up there. I think a lot of motivation comes from shooting if they really do well, and that's exactly. I mean, you see the tally in Jakarta and even earlier, wherever shooting hasn't really performed well, especially in an Asian Games scenario, especially in an Olympic scenario, I think it really does affect the rest of the stuff.
Sandeep, we should also discuss the names of Manu Bhakar, who's already a big star in India, and Isha Singh and Rhythm Sangwan. They also shot to gold, and they landed the gold in the women's 25-meter pistol event. My question to you is that Manu Bhakar had a pretty horrific time at the Tokyo Olympics, and not only her, but the other shooters also underperformed, and there was a lot of criticism about the way the shooting federation was being managed. Also, the roles of coaches like Jaspal Rana, who became very controversial because of his open spat with Manu Bhakar. He even wore a T-shirt on which he had written messages which Manu Bhakar's mum had sent. But then that's history. They patched up, and again he coached her. So when we are talking about all of this happening in the backdrop, I have what I want to know from you is, with your expertise, that what kind of impact does it have on the mind of the athlete, and second is, how do they emerge?
I think either they crumble, and probably this is a very clear sign of how Manu probably develops her own mind. I mean, Jakarta was a very bad scene. I mean, even after that, Tokyo. And for any athlete, irrespective of shooting or anybody else, I mean, the amount of criticism that came in from the media, and the entire team was roasted virtually at that point of time. Of course, the federation is at the end of it, but the athlete suffers the most because the headlines and all of that. And also, let's understand one thing: it's very easy to put it on an athlete. It's very difficult to put it on a federation at times. Federation normally, even in good times, normally don't have answers. So just imagine what happens to an athlete. But this is a classic example of an athlete really coming back and a coach coming back. Jaspal has been controversial not only as a coach, but he has also had a lot of say, a lot of frankness that he displayed even when he was a shooter. So I think that all probably lends itself to Manu in a way. I think if you have a coach like him, a coach who understands an athlete, a coach who probably brings in confidence, and whatever he says, if the athlete is buying into it, which is more important, I think that lends itself to the shooter when they go onto the range. And now you're seeing a new Manu here, and I hope and I feel that probably all of this success helps us in at the next Olympics in Paris, because that is where most of the shooters need to shine now. Forget what happened in Jakarta, forget what happened in Tokyo, because in sport it usually happens. Up and downs are there, and I think rebuild from here itself, from China and on to Paris. And this is great news. This is great stuff from athletes and coaches who we have roasted in the past now to come back.
Also, Sandeep, I from you, it is very important for the viewers to understand that the door where shooting is concerned, it opened with Abhinav Bindra landing the gold at the Beijing Olympics, and you have had pretty close interactions with Abhinav Bindra over a period of time, and you tried to understand his mind, his strategy. and the fact that he seemed so introverted and quiet even after winning the gold. We've discussed some of it, but let's connect it to the present. Abhinav Bindra came from a very prosperous family, and he was backed by his own father. He trained overseas, and most of the time had his own schedule. Another example could be Neeraj Chopra, but this time, of course, backed by the federation. But he's been really backed by what he needs: training overseas, exposure, the best coaches, everything else. Now, does the same apply to this new generation of shooters? And I ask this because they are in a position to land medal after medal.
I think what applies to the new generation is very simple, and if not a lot, but a few people I have interacted with here have constantly been asking me, they see this confidence in the Indian athlete now. They see this confidence when they see them on a track, when they see them on a hockey pitch, when they see them at shooting, when they see them at tennis. They see a very different person out there who is confident about not only about himself, but confident that he's going to make it to the podium. And I think that is what this younger generation is there for. They have taken a lot of inspiration from people like Abhinav Bindra. Bindra was a very different beast altogether. He came out of the blue. Like you said, he comes from an extremely prosperous family. But that has nothing to do with his talent. I mean, you can be coming from a very humble background. What counts is how you gear yourself up, how you gear yourself up in terms of your coaching strategy, in terms of your tactics, and at the end of the day, how hungry are you? When you look at Manu, you actually see that hunger. When you look at others, you actually see that. And I think that probably holds them in good stead. And it is just not confined to shooting, it's confined to almost everything. You see the rowers today. I mean, they come from extremely humble backgrounds. They are all part of the army, and they're not army officers in that sense, you know. So they have some form of steel in them that, this is where we need to go. This is why we need to perform, because it's number one, it's the country, and number two, at the end of the day, you also perform for yourself because you want to live up to a certain expectation. And I think that is exactly where Abhinav Bindra stood. That this is the reason why I shoot. I don't shoot for fun. I shoot to win also, and I shoot to win gold medals. They have learned a lot from him. I think he's a beacon. He's a massive, massive inspiration, not only for a shooter but for a whole lot of athletes coming out of India.
Any comment on the other shooters who've done well with Manu Bhakar, like Ashi Choksi, Manini Kaushik, and of course Sifat Kaur Samra?
I think what you can see basically in the last 1 year has been this whole introduction of the younger athlete, the whole introduction of not only, like we spoke about this, not only about what were your past performance, but what is your domestic performance at this moment of time. And I think this whole national selection policy of picking the person in form, I think augurs well, simply because imagine an athlete, imagine a shooter who has performed well on the domestic scene, but you pick up a shooter because they have performed well in the past. When I say the past, I mean a 2 to 3 year gap. But if the younger person has really done well and done well in domestic, I think the moment you pick that person has that confidence that, okay, I am being backed by an individual slash federation slash government slash sports authority of India. I'm in the top scheme, and I think I need to perform because I need to showcase it. This whole bunch that you see now is coming from that kind of a background, that kind of a thinking. And that thinking, I think, is a turnaround. It's a 360 turnaround from what we saw in Indian sport 10 years back. And I think everybody in this country probably now agrees that sport is doing well, sport is good. Sport is also is about understanding how we stand as a country. And I think if we win a lot of medals here, probably, I don't know whether we can hit the 100. You keep asking me about this song hoga ki nahi hoga, but I don't know about the 100 mark. But if we do these world records, if we do these Asian Games gold medals, if we are on the podium, the direct link, Arup, is to the national anthem. The more you hear the national anthem, the more the athlete feels proud. Even the person who's got a bronze feels, I should get a gold next time, simply because, not only because of the podium, not only because of the financial incentives, but simply because I want to be there for the national anthem. I think that probably drives a lot of these younger ones.
वेरी वेल सेड संदीप. एंड बिफोर वी रैप, सर्वेश पांडे के दो बेहतरीन सवाल हैं. एक तो वो आपसे ये जानना चाहते हैं कि संदीप सर, आज आप कौन कौन से स्पोर्ट्स पे मौजूद रहेंगे और दूसरा कि आशी चौकसी की शूटिंग क्यों खराब थी, तो आप जो कहना चाहें।
आखिरी चौक मैं इसलिए नहीं बोल पाऊंगा क्योंकि बहुत सिंपल सी बात है कि मैं शूटिंग पे जा नहीं पाया, मैं कुछ लिख रहा था, इसलिए I honestly will not be able to say anything, and anything out of the blue is completely wrong on my part. Yes, I'm also going to Nikhat. I'm really interested to watch a round of 16 because that is the first step towards the quarterfinal for a boxer of her quality, and I think hopefully she's up against a Korean or as I said earlier, she comes directly, not Nikhat, but the Korean boxer. And I think that probably might help Nikhat to tackle the Korean boxer. Any boxer who comes directly at you, you can understand in terms of the first round. And I really think and I hope that she wins the first round, so she's at an advantage. And that is my plan for today, Nikhat Zareen.
Okay, so we'll catch you later. And Team NNIS is present in full force at Hangzhou. Also, the backup team is very, very strong. We're extremely vigilant. And through the day, all the updates will be popping up on social media. Keep watching us. We'll get you some of the best analysis and the finest coverage.
Thank you.